There is a number that rich people know and most people don't. It isn't a secret. It's printed in law books, used openly by investment banks. But because it lives inside language most people were never handed, it sits there, invisible, doing its quiet work for the few who understand it. The number is zero. 0% tax on borrowed money. Not reduced, not deferred. Zero. That single fact, buried inside the most ordinary-seeming rule in the tax code, is the hinge on which enormous wealth swings. I used to think debt meant one thing: struggle. Most of us learn early it's the enemy, the thing you race to eliminate so you can start building. The goal is to own things free and clear. But watch what happens when you shift who is holding it. An ordinary person earns money, pays taxes before it reaches the account, spends what remains. A wealthy person often doesn't earn that way. Their wealth is stored in company shares, real estate, a private business. Here is the rule that changes everything. You only owe capital gains tax, the tax on investment profit, when you actually sell. Hold the asset, and no matter how much it rises, the government cannot touch it. That growth is called an unrealized gain, and it is completely untaxed. So the question the wealthy face isn't, how do I earn more? It's quieter. Do I sell this appreciating asset and hand 20% or more to the government? Or do I pledge it as collateral, as a guarantee, borrow against it, and keep every dollar? The asset stays put, the tax never triggers, the loan arrives tax-free because borrowed money is not income, and the asset keeps growing while the loan costs 4 to 5% annually, far less than the 20% tax that selling would have triggered. USC law professor Edward McCaffrey named this strategy decades ago. He called it buy, borrow, die. Buy an asset, borrow against it instead of selling. At death, the asset passes to heirs under a provision called step-up in basis, which resets the taxable value to whatever the asset is worth the day the owner dies, permanently erasing the entire history of untaxed growth. Heirs sell a fraction to repay the loan. The rest stays. 3 generations of accumulated wealth. 0 capital gains tax. Ever. There's a thought that arrives for most people here. This has to be illegal. Some offshore scheme, shadow accounting. I had it too. But the truth is more unsettling. It is entirely legal. The realization doctrine says taxes apply to sales, not appreciation. Borrowed money is not income. IRC section 1014 codifies the step-up. McCaffrey put it plainly, like it's immoral to own a growth stock. It's immoral to borrow money. Now, before the obvious conclusion arrives, the research complicates the picture. Edward Fox of Michigan and Zachary Liskow of Yale measured not just what the wealthy own, but how much they actually borrow. The top 1% borrow only 1 to 2% of their total economic income annually. Their unrealized gains represent roughly 40% of it, massive in dollars, nearly incidental as a proportion of the wealth. The real strategy, they concluded, isn't borrow to avoid taxes. It's simpler: save, hold. Allow the asset base to compound, that quiet snowball effect where growth makes more growth without selling anything, and live off the vast income from salaries and dividends that already exceeds consumption. Buy, borrow, die gets the attention. Buy, save, die does the actual work. Between 2014 and 2018, Elon Musk's wealth grew by nearly $14 billion. His effective true tax rate, 3.3%. Jeff Bezos's wealth grew $99 billion in the same window. He paid 1.0%. Warren Buffett, who publicly advocates taxing the wealthy, paid a true rate of 0.1% on $24 billion in growth. These figures came from leaked IRS records published by ProPublica in 2021. $42 billion, the tax revenue the government missed in 2021 alone, because the step-up in basis erased capital gains the moment their owners died. The instrument enabling this individually is called a securities-backed line of credit, an S-block, a revolving loan secured by an investment portfolio. Interest in 2025 averaged 4.24%, not free, still far cheaper than a 23.8% capital gains tax. And these loans aren't reserved for billionaires. Firms like Charles Schwab and Fidelity offer them to investors with portfolios as small as $100,000. The mechanics migrated quietly downward. Most people just don't know the name. At institutional scale, this debt carries a different danger. In 2025, private equity firms ran a surge of what's called dividend recapitalizations. The company you own takes on new debt, uses the proceeds to pay you a dividend. You extract cash without selling. The company absorbs the obligation. Volume in the first 11 months of 2025, $70 billion. Research found that these transactions increase the probability of financial distress or bankruptcy for the affected company by a factor of 2.4. The sponsor extracts liquidity. Workers and creditors carry the weight. Bill Huang understood leverage. By March 2021, using derivative contracts called total return swaps, instruments that let you control enormous stock positions without directly owning them. He had built $50 billion in market exposure on a $10 billion fortune, fragmented across banks, so no single lender saw the full picture. Then a stock fell. Every bank issued margin calls simultaneously, demands for cash to secure the declining positions. Huang couldn't pay. They all raced to sell the same stocks into the same market at once. $20 billion of personal wealth vanished in 48 hours. Credit Suisse alone lost $4.7 billion. The logic of collateralized lending, airtight in calm markets, broke the instant every counterparty tried to exit through the same door at once. The Robin Hood Act, introduced in December 2025, tries to close that door. A proposed 20% excise tax on loans backed by capital assets for high earners. Yale's Budget Lab estimates it could generate $102 to $147 billion in federal revenue over a decade. But taxing unrealized gains requires annual valuations of private businesses, farms, and art. Infrastructure the IRS doesn't have. The 1976 attempt to require heirs to trace original purchase prices collapsed under its own weight. Congress reversed it in 1980. The system persists, partly because every practical alternative has broken first. Which brings us back to the number. 0% on borrowed money. Still there. Still quiet. Still doing its work. Not hidden, not illegal. Just operating inside a language most people were never handed. That's a different kind of invisible, a more durable one. The debt isn't the weight for the people who understand it. It's the hinge